Hi there, ladies. Welcome back. This is Monday, September 12th, and I know you are completely aware of that. You didn't need me to remind you. Today, my conversation is about living an empowered life. Now, I know there were a lot of times when I felt throughout my life that I was not living from an empowered perspective. And I'm just turning off my phone here because it just alarmed. And I was not living my life from an empowered perspective. So what does it mean for you, ladies, to live from, hi, thank you for joining me, to live from an empowered perspective? There are all kinds of perspectives that we could take coming from an empowered stance. And today, the conversation is going to circle around communication, because I feel that communication is one of the biggest pieces of things that cause us to be stalled. You know, maybe you ladies have a relationship. Perhaps you are in a committed relationship. Maybe it's a marriage relationship. Maybe it's a relationship with your kids, or someone you really care about. And how is that going for you? How's the communication going for you? Well, I want to share a story which I've shared a lot of times with people who have known me that literally transformed a committed relationship for me. In fact, several committed relationships. I don't know if I'll have the time to share all the stories on this call, because this is intended to be very brief. However, what I want to do is to share this. And this is about my relationship and my marriage with my husband. Now, we've both shared this story 1,000 times to crowds of people. But there came a time, quite probably around 2 to 3 years ago, when things really went south. Now, when you have a relationship and you have a blended family, that creates a new challenge all by itself. It can be a completely different challenge that, if you're both not aware of and tuned into, could destroy a really great relationship. So somewhat that's what was happening, and we both became completely frustrated with each other. So here's the scenario. We're in the house, we're living in the same house. I am going my way, he's going his way. We're never in the same room at the same time. I made certain that if I was in the kitchen, for example, and he walked in, I'm out. I didn't want to be in the same room with him. I was completely frustrated. I was done. And so that went on for a while. If our eyes did connect, it was the pure look of hate on each of our faces. And I decided that it wasn't going to work that way. So we both agreed that we were going to get a divorce. That D word, huh? It's a cop-out, isn't it? It really is a cop-out. In any event, that's what we decided we would do. So we went off and got the paper notarized. So this divorce paper was notarized, and here he was taking the girls to college in Florida. And I'm here in Maryland, and I went to a seminar put on by Landmark. And while I was sitting in that event, the things that I heard just completely blew my mind. And I knew this was the conversation I was trying to have with him for a long time, but he couldn't hear it from me. And I'll tell you why in a little bit. When I talk about the communication strategies, he couldn't hear it from me. In any event, I decided that we were having our Tuesday evening graduation ceremony, and I thought I would call and invite him to come out on Tuesday. So I pick up the phone and I dial it. I'm really nervous. And the phone rings on the other end, and he says, hello. And I took a deep breath and I said, hello. My heart's pounding. because, we hadn't talked for a good long time. And I absolutely didn't want him to think that I was dialing him up because I wanted to reconnect. So when he said hello, I said, hello, I am having my graduation on Tuesday evening, and it would mean a lot to me if you could come. So my heart is racing, and I didn't want him to say no, but then he said, I can't. And it was like a dagger in my heart, because I just opened myself to be so vulnerable to invite him to come out. And I said, well, why not? And he said, well, Gwen, it is Sunday, and you're asking me to come out to an event in a day and a half. I won't find a plane ticket that's reasonable enough. So knowing the answer to this question, I said, did you look? And he said, well, no. I said, well, can you look, and I'll call you back tomorrow, which is Monday. So Monday comes around, I pick up the phone and I dial. My heart's still racing because I know what I want the answer to be, and I don't know if I'll get it. So he says, hello. And I said, hi. Did you find a plane ticket? And he said, yes, he's coming. And immediately, instead of just celebrating, see how our mind works? My mind flew into a question. It's like, why is he coming? Imagine that, right? I need to know why he's coming, I told myself. So that day, I drove to the airport, and I went and picked him up. And so on the way, we were a little silent. Then I said, so why did you come? And I could see him looking at me as if I was crazy, and he said, because you asked me. I said, well, I've asked you before many times and you didn't come. And you didn't do what I asked you to do. So why'd you come? And he said, well, I heard something different in your voice. I kind of questioned that, right? But I didn't say anything. I played along. So we went to the session, and transformation happened. He signed up, and he actually did the course. So come the first day of his course, he comes home. And already I could see something completely different in his whole demeanor. It was transformation. It wasn't this ego that I had seen before. And he was saying stuff to me that he was never saying before. And I thought, this can't be real. I even felt a little flutter. Thought that was gone. But I actually felt a little flutter in my heart. And I thought, wow, this can't be. He went through his event. Long story short, he invited me out to his Sunday night event. He got up in front of the whole crowd of people and literally made an announcement to everyone that, the course had opened up his eyes, and he didn't see a lot of things, and that now he is so delighted that his wife could join him, and listen to the next statement. And he is just thanking God and hoping that we could have at least 50 more years together. I almost fell out of the chair, okay? I was completely taken aback. So they asked me if I wanted to say something, and I did go up and I said something. But what was this transformation that happened? Well, the conversations in our household wasn't really going right. We weren't listening to one another. Hey, thank you. I love that. Thank you for joining me. We weren't listening to one another. See, there was a time when I felt like my communication was going on deaf ears, and I figured that probably was the same for him. And we didn't learn to really cue in and listen authentically. What we were doing was listening to each other through filters. You had your filter, your background life, and I had my filter, my background life. And so when communication started, instead of hearing purely what the other person was saying, meaning was put on what we were saying. I can tell you that was completely frustrating for me because I didn't like anyone interpreting what I felt I was saying. I'm a big grown girl. I know how to say what I mean. And if there's anything Gwen gets in trouble for, it's saying what she means. And I certainly didn't want anyone putting a spin on my interpretation. But then, conversations and communication, it's been like 3 years and things have completely transformed and turned around. Now, we literally enjoy one another's company. We laugh a lot. We play a lot. We have fun a lot. We chase each other around the house a lot. And yes, we still have challenges. And now those challenges don't seem to end up the way they do. Because we have this tool that I want to share with you today, ladies, that will help you in your relating. And what is the tool? Listen very keenly, not just to your spouse or your committed loved ones, but to everyone else. Really listen. Really hear what they're saying. When you can hear and listen from your heart and understand their emotions, then you won't seem to fly off the handle so quickly. A lot of times when we get angry, I know when I get upset and I lose my cool, it's because I feel like I'm not being listened to. And tomorrow what I'm going to do is to share another transformation with you about that piece for me. How that transformed for me. How I got my close relationships to work and transform because of that. But there's a danger in creating your own stories based on what you are hearing. And if you can learn to just listen to what the other person is saying and really come from a place of love and true compassion, thank you for the likes. If you can really come from that place, then the other person will feel heard. Many times when people get angry and upset and start yelling at one another, it's because they don't feel listened to. So how can you listen? Well, not just as I said, hearing the words, but the emotions, and then repeating what you actually heard the person say. You're actually recreating the conversation for them so that they feel heard. I knew this principle when I practiced it very well professionally, but I really wasn't good at it in my own house. Because when, as a school administrator, we all know when the parents come in and they're angry, what you do is just let them talk. And just let them talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. And then if you don't interrupt and you don't say anything, by the time they've talked everything out, they felt heard, whether or not you said anything to them. And once they feel heard, now they become open to listen and to hear what you have to say. So I leave you today with this tip that anytime you engage in conversation, first come from the perspective of hearing the other person out. Don't be so busy trying to reconstruct your own thoughts to say what you're going to say next, but really listen, recreate them, recreate how they are feeling, and really make certain that you understand first where they're coming from. As Stephen Covey says, it's not a matter of you seeking first to be understood. You first seek to understand before you seek to be understood. And I hope you have the most amazing day today. And I know some of you will be listening to this later on. Please leave me your comments. Let me know whether this was of any value to you. We're talking today and this week about living an empowered life. And this conversation is for us ladies. But the guys, you feel free, jump in and say your piece as well, because we're all one. And so I leave you this afternoon with this wonderful, loving affection that you should pass on to the people in your relationships and in your life. And that feeling of listening and hearing them is paramount and will make a huge difference in the quality of your relationship. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you tomorrow at 3 p.m.